Welcome to Echo of the Dream Lab. Every night, while the world sleeps, something extraordinary is happening inside your skull. Your conscious mind fades away, but deep in the darkness, your brain is awake, studying, practicing, solving problems you couldn't crack during the day. Tonight, we're going to reveal exactly what's happening in those hidden hours. Let's begin. The discovery: close your eyes right now and imagine this scenario. Tonight, while you're sleeping, your brain will solve a problem you've been struggling with for weeks. It will reorganize information you learned today, strengthen skills you practiced, and even help you understand a complex concept that confused you during the day. Sounds impossible, right? But here's the truth that neuroscientists have discovered. Your brain doesn't just rest while you sleep. It studies. It practices. It learns. In fact, some of the most important learning you'll ever do happens when you're completely unconscious. Think about it. You spend roughly 1/3 of your life asleep. That's about 25 years for the average person. For decades, scientists thought this was wasted time, a biological necessity, but nothing more. We were wrong. Dramatically wrong. Your sleeping brain is actually more active in some ways than your waking brain. It's running complex simulations, testing different scenarios, consolidating memories, and literally rewiring itself to make you smarter, more skilled, and better prepared for tomorrow. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how your brain studies while you sleep. Why? Some people learn faster in their sleep than others, and most importantly, how you can optimize your sleep to become a more effective learner. By the end of this video, you'll understand why that all-night study session before your exam is actually sabotaging your performance, why athletes who sleep more perform dramatically better, and why some of history's greatest discoveries, from the periodic table to the structure of DNA, happened in dreams. So let's dive into the fascinating science of how your brain transforms sleep into your most powerful study session. The night shift. When your brain goes to school, let me tell you about a groundbreaking experiment that changed everything we thought we knew about sleep and learning. In 2007, researchers at Harvard Medical School conducted a simple but remarkable study. They taught participants a new motor skill, a finger tapping sequence, similar to learning a pattern on a piano. Half the group learned the sequence in the morning and were tested 12 hours later. That evening, without any sleep in between. The other half learned the sequence in the evening and were tested the next morning. After a full night's sleep, the results were shocking. The group that slept showed a 20% improvement in speed and a 35% improvement in accuracy, compared to the group that stayed awake. But here's what's even more fascinating. The brain imaging revealed that the sleeping participants weren't just better at the task. Their brains had actually reorganized the neural pathways involved in performing it. The task had moved from conscious, effortful processing to more automatic, unconscious processing. In other words, their brains had literally studied and mastered the skill while they slept. This wasn't a fluke. Similar experiments have been replicated hundreds of times with different types of learning, from language acquisition to mathematical problem solving to emotional processing. The conclusion is undeniable. Your brain uses sleep as dedicated study time. But how exactly does this work? What's happening in your brain during those hours of unconsciousness that makes learning possible? To understand this, we need to take a journey through the architecture of sleep itself. The architecture of sleep, your brain's study schedule. Sleep isn't uniform. It's not like flipping a switch where your brain just turns off for 8 hours. Instead, sleep is a carefully orchestrated symphony with different movements, each serving a specific purpose in the learning process. Your brain cycles through distinct stages of sleep multiple times each night, and each stage plays a unique role in how you learn and remember information. Let's break down these stages, because understanding them is crucial to understanding how your brain studies while you sleep. The transition, 5-10 minutes, this is the lightest stage of sleep. That drowsy period where you're drifting off. Your brain waves begin to slow down. Your muscles relax, and your conscious awareness of your surroundings fades. This stage is brief, but it's important because it's setting the stage for what comes next. Think of this as your brain's way of closing the textbooks from your waking hours and preparing to open new ones. Light sleep, a 45-55% of your night. This is where you spend most of your sleeping time. Your heart rate slows, and your body temperature drops, and your brain produces distinctive patterns called sleep spindles and K-complexes. Now, those sleep spindles are absolutely fascinating, and they're crucial to understanding how you learn in your sleep. These are brief bursts of brain activity lasting just a second or two that occur 10 to 15 times per minute during stage 2 sleep. Recent research has discovered that sleep spindles are directly involved in memory consolidation. When researchers measured people's sleep spindles and compared them to their learning performance, they found a direct correlation. More sleep spindles meant better memory consolidation, particularly for facts and information you learned during the day. It's as if each sleep spindle is a moment where your brain is saying, "Okay, let's review that. Let's move it from temporary storage to permanent storage, y'all. Let's make this stick." Stage 3. Deep sleep, 15-25% of your night. This is the deepest stage of sleep, where your brain waves become long, slow, rolling delta waves. This is the sleep that makes you feel refreshed in the morning. If someone wakes you during deep sleep, you'll feel groggy and disoriented. But deep sleep isn't just about rest. This is when your brain does some of its most important learning work. During deep sleep, your hippocampus, the brain's memory hub, begins replaying the experiences and information from your day. It's literally reactivating the same neural patterns that fired when you first learned something. But here's the crucial part. It's replaying these patterns to your cortex, the outer layer of your brain where long-term memories are stored. Think of your hippocampus as a temporary notebook where you jot down quick notes during the day. During deep sleep, your brain is transferring those notes into a permanent archive, organizing them, connecting them to existing knowledge, and making them accessible for future use. Studies using brain imaging have actually watched this process happen. Researchers can see the hippocampus lighting up, followed milliseconds later by activity in the cortex. Over and over again, like a teacher patiently repeating a lesson until the student understands. REM sleep, the creative studio, 20-25% of your night. REM stands for rapid eye movement, and it's the stage where most of your vivid dreams occur. Your eyes dart back and forth beneath your closed eyelids. Your brain becomes almost as active as when you're awake. Why? But your body is paralyzed, unable to act out your dreams. For a long time, scientists thought REM sleep was mainly about dreaming and emotional processing. They were right about that, but they missed something even more important. REM sleep is when your brain makes creative connections. It takes the information consolidated during deep sleep and starts experimenting with it, combining ideas in novel ways, solving problems from new angles, and integrating new knowledge with everything you already know. Remember those stories about famous discoveries happening in dreams? The chemist Auguste Kekule discovering the ring structure of benzene in a dream about a snake eating its tail. Paul McCartney dreaming the melody for Yesterday. Dmitri Mendeleev seeing the periodic table in a dream. These weren't just lucky flukes. They were the result of REM sleep doing what it does best, making creative connections that conscious thought might never have found. Recent experiments have proven this scientifically. Researchers gave participants complex problems to solve, then let some of them take naps with REM sleep while keeping others awake. The group that had REM sleep was significantly better at finding creative solutions. They were making connections between distant concepts that the awake group missed. Your brain during REM sleep is like a master chef, taking all the ingredients you gathered during the day and combining them in unexpected, innovative ways to create something entirely new. The replay effect, your brain's study technique. Now let's talk about one of the most remarkable discoveries in sleep science, something called memory replay. In the 1990s, researchers at the University of Arizona made an astonishing discovery. They placed electrodes in rats' brains to record the activity of individual neurons while the rats learned to navigate a maze. Each neuron in the hippocampus fired in a specific pattern as the rat moved through different locations. Then, they recorded the rat's brain activity while they slept. What they found was extraordinary. During sleep, the exact same neurons fired in the exact same sequence, but 10 to 20 times faster than during waking experience. The rats' brains were replaying their maze, running experience over and over again, at high speed, like watching a video on fast forward. This wasn't random neural noise. This was deliberate, organized replay. And here's what makes it even more fascinating. The replay wasn't just a simple rerun. Sometimes the brain would replay the experience backwards, starting from the goal and working back to the beginning. Sometimes it would replay just the important parts, skipping over the routine sections. The brain was actively studying the experience, analyzing it from different angles, figuring out what worked and what didn't. This same phenomenon has now been observed in humans. When people learn new routes through a virtual city, new card games, new motor skills, their brains replay these experiences during sleep. And the amount of replay correlates directly with how well they remember and perform the task the next day. But your brain doesn't just replay experiences randomly. It's selective about what gets replayed. Memories associated with reward get replayed more. If you learn something that led to a positive outcome, your brain will review it more often during sleep. Surprising or unexpected experiences get extra replay time. Emotionally significant memories, whether positive or negative, get prioritized. And here's something really interesting. If you cue your brain right before sleep, you can influence what gets replayed. In one clever experiment, researchers had participants learn the location of objects on a screen, and each object was associated with a specific sound. For example, a cat image would appear with a meowing sound, a car image with an engine sound. Later, while the participants slept, researchers played some of those sounds very quietly, too quiet to wake them up. The result? The memories associated with the cued sounds were significantly stronger the next day. The brain had been prompted to replay those specific memories more during sleep. This has enormous implications for learning. It suggests that what you think about, review, or prime yourself with just before sleep can influence what your brain will study during the night. The consolidation process, from temporary to permanent. Let's dig deeper into how sleep transforms fragile, temporary memories into stable, permanent ones. This process, called memory consolidation, is one of the most important functions of sleep. When you learn something new during the day, whether it's a fact, a skill, or an experience, that information initially exists in a fragile state. It's encoded in your hippocampus, but it's vulnerable. New information can interfere with it. Time can degrade it. Without consolidation, most of what you learned during the day would simply fade away. Sleep protects against this loss, but it does much more than just protect. It actively strengthens and reorganizes memories. Here's how the process works. During your waking hours, neurons in your hippocampus form new connections as you learn. These connections represent the new information, but they're weak, temporary, like pencil marks that could easily be erased. When you sleep, particularly during deep sleep, your brain begins a systematic transfer process. The hippocampus reactivates these neural patterns, sending signals to your cortex. The cortex receives these signals and begins forming its own connection Z, its own representation of the information. Over multiple sleep cycles, over multiple nights, these cortical connections get stronger and stronger. The memory is no longer dependent on the hippocampus. It's been integrated into your long-term storage, woven into your existing knowledge network. But here's what's really remarkable. The consolidated memory isn't just a carbon copy of the original experience. Your brain actually improves upon it. Studies have shown that after sleep, people don't just remember information better, they understand it better. They can see patterns they missed during initial learning. They can make inferences and generalizations they couldn't make before. They can apply the knowledge to new situations more effectively. This is because during consolidation, your brain isn't just copying files. It's reorganizing information, extracting the essential features, connecting it to related knowledge and creating a more efficient, more useful representation. Think of it like this. During the day, you're taking rough notes in a lecture. During sleep, your brain is rewriting those notes, highlighting the key points, organizing them into logical categories, adding cross-references to related material, and creating a study guide that's actually better than the original notes. This is why students who study material and then sleep on it perform better than students who study the same amount but stay awake. The sleeping students don't just remember more, they understand more deeply. Skills and procedures. The motor learning laboratory. We've talked mostly about factual learning, remembering information, but your sleeping brain is equally, if not more, impressive when it comes to learning skills and procedures. Let me share another fascinating study. Researchers taught participants to type a complex sequence of numbers, like 41324, as quickly and accurately as possible. This is a motor skill. requiring precise finger movements and timing. After initial practice, participants showed some improvement, but they still made mistakes and weren't particularly fast. Then came the intervention. Some participants were allowed to sleep, while others had to stay awake for an equivalent period. The next day, the group that slept showed dramatic improvement. They were faster, more accurate, and reported that the sequence felt more automatic, less effortful. Brain imaging revealed why. The task had been transferred from brain regions associated with conscious, controlled processing to regions associated with automatic, unconscious processing. The sleeping brain had essentially rewired itself to make the skill more efficient. This phenomenon, called offline learning, is incredibly powerful. It means you can literally get better at a skill without practicing it, just by sleeping. Musicians have known about this intuitively for centuries. Piano teachers often tell students, if you're struggling with a piece, practice it before bed, and it will be easier tomorrow. They're absolutely right, and now we understand why. During sleep, particularly during stage 2, sleep with its characteristic sleep spindles, your brain is replaying the motor sequences you practiced. But it's doing more than just replaying. It's optimizing. Imagine you're learning to play a chord progression on guitar. During practice, you're consciously thinking about each finger placement or each strum. Your movements are slow, deliberate, somewhat clumsy. But during sleep, your brain is replaying these movements hundreds of times, testing slight variations, smoothing out the rough spots, integrating the sequence into a fluid, automatic pattern. By morning, something magical has happened. You sit down with your guitar, and the progression that felt awkward yesterday now flows more naturally. Your fingers seem to know where to go. The conscious effort has diminished. This isn't just about music. The same process applies to sports, dance, surgery, typing, driving, any motor skill you can imagine. Sleep is your brain's dedicated practice time. This is sleep's problem, solving power in action. But how does it work? What's happening during sleep that enables this kind of insight? The answer lies in how REM sleep processes information. Remember, during REM sleep, your brain becomes highly active, but in a very different way than during waking. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logical, linear thinking and executive control, becomes less active. Meanwhile, other brain regions, particularly those involved in emotional processing and memory, become more active. This creates a unique brain state. You lose some of your logical constraints, your rigid thinking patterns, your habitual approaches to problems. At the same time, your brain starts making unusual associations, connecting distant concepts, exploring solution spaces it wouldn't normally consider. It's like your brain takes off its business suit and starts thinking outside the box, way outside the box. And this isn't just about solving intellectual problems. Sleep can help you with interpersonal problems too. Relationship conflicts often seem more manageable after a good night's sleep. Difficult decisions become clearer. Emotional reactions that seemed justified in the heat of the moment appear differently in the morning. This is because sleep, particularly REM sleep, processes emotional experiences, helping you gain perspective and see situations from different angles. There's also evidence that the sleeping brain actively simulates different scenarios and outcomes. When you go to sleep with a problem on your mind, your brain doesn't ignore it. It runs simulations, tests different approaches, and evaluates potential solutions. Think of it like your brain is running thousands of experiments while you sleep, trying different combinations, different angles, different strategies. By morning, it has narrowed down the most promising solutions and presents them to your conscious mind. This is why the advice, sleep on it, is so scientifically sound for any important decision or difficult problem. Sleeping before deciding isn't procrastination, it's smart strategy. The spacing effect. Why cramming fails and sleep wins. Let's talk about one of the most important practical implications of sleep learning. Why all-night cramming is one of the worst study strategies you could possibly use. Every semester, millions of students stay up all night before exams, consuming caffeine, forcing information into their brains, believing that more hours of study equals better performance. They're wrong, tragically wrong. Here's what science tells us. Learning is most effective when it's spaced out over time, with periods of sleep between study sessions. This is called the spacing effect, and it's one of the most robust findings in all of educational psychology. In one study, researchers had students learn foreign language vocabulary. One group studied all the words in a single session. Another group studied the same words, for the same total amount of time, but spread across multiple sessions with sleep in between. The results weren't even close. The spaced learning group remembered significantly more words, not just the next day, but weeks and months later. And brain imaging revealed why. Well, the spaced learners showed stronger, more stable neural representations of the learned material. Sleep between study sessions isn't just rest time. It's when your brain is actively consolidating what you learned, reorganizing it, connecting it to existing knowledge, and transferring it to long-term storage. When you cram, when you try to force large amounts of information into your brain in a single session. Without sleep, several things go wrong. First, you overwhelm your hippocampus. Remember, the hippocampus is where new information is initially encoded, but it has limited capacity. It's like a small notepad. If you keep writing on it without ever transferring those notes to permanent storage, the notepad fills up, new information starts interfering with old, and everything becomes jumbled. Second, you prevent consolidation. Even if you successfully encode information into your hippocampus through cramming, without sleep, that information remains fragile. It never gets transferred to long-term storage. It's still sitting in that temporary notepad, vulnerable to interference and decay. Third, you accumulate sleep debt, which actively impairs your cognitive function. After 24 hours without sleep, your cognitive performance is equivalent to being legally drunk. Your attention suffers, your working memory declines, your ability to encode new information plummets. So not only are you preventing your brain from consolidating what you've learned, you're also making it harder for your brain to learn new information. The smarter strategy is obvious. Study in shorter sessions. Get good sleep and let your brain do its work. The student who studies for 2 hours sleeps well, studies for another 2 hours the next day, and sleeps well again, will outperform the student who crams for 8 hours straight. "'Tis not about the total time spent studying. It's about giving your brain the sleep it needs to consolidate and organize what you're learning. Optimization and application individual differences. Why some brains study better during sleep. Now, you might be wondering, If sleep is so important for learning, why do some people seem to learn well even with poor sleep habits? And why do some people struggle to learn even when they sleep plenty? The truth is, there are significant individual differences in how effectively different brains use sleep for learning. Understanding these differences can help you optimize your own sleep learning. Let's start with chronotype, your natural sleep-wake preference. You've probably heard people describe themselves as morning people or night owls. This isn't just preference, it's biology. Your chronotype is determined by your circadian rhythm, your body's internal 24-hour clock. Some people have circadian rhythms that naturally want to sleep early and wake early. Others have rhythms that want to sleep late and wake late. And most people fall somewhere in between. Here's what's fascinating. Chronotype doesn't just affect when you sleep. It affects how well you consolidate different types of learning. There's also emerging evidence that some people are naturally better at learning specific types of information during sleep. Some individuals show particularly strong consolidation of motor skills, while others show stronger consolidation of verbal information or spatial information. Scientists don't fully understand why these differences exist, but they suspect it has to do with variations in brain structure and chemistry. The good news is that you can figure out your own patterns through experimentation and observation. Pay attention to what types of learning seem to benefit most from a good night's sleep. Do physical skills click into place after you sleep? Does verbal information, like vocabulary or concepts, become clearer overnight? Do spatial tasks, like navigation or mental rotation, improve with sleep? Understanding your own patterns can help you strategically schedule different types of learning to maximize your sleep's benefits. Sleep optimization for maximum learning. Now let's get practical. How can you optimize your sleep to maximize learning? What specific strategies can you implement tonight to make your brain a better student while you sleep? Let's start with the foundation: sleep duration. The evidence is clear. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night for optimal cognitive function and learning. Some people can function adequately on slightly less, some need slightly more, but the range is surprisingly narrow. If you're regularly sleeping less than 7 hours, you're almost certainly compromising your brain's ability to consolidate learning. You might feel like you're functioning fine, but studies show that people are terrible at judging their own sleep deprivation. You adapt to impaired performance, mistake it for normal, and don't realize how much better you could be functioning. But duration alone isn't enough. Consistency matters enormously. Your brain's consolidation processes are tied to your circadian rhythm. If you go to bed at 11 p.m. every night, your brain learns to initiate consolidation processes at predictable times. But if your sleep schedule is erratic, going to bed at 10 p.m. one night, 1 a.m. the next, 9 p.m. the following night, your brain never knows when to start consolidation. It's constantly playing catch up, never able to establish efficient patterns. Try to maintain a consistent sleep schedule, going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every day, even on weekends. This isn't about being rigid. Occasional variation is fine, but wild swings in your sleep schedule disrupt your brain's learning processes. Now let's talk about sleep quality. Getting 8 hours in bed doesn't help if you're awake for 2 of those hours, or if your sleep is constantly disrupted. Here's how to improve sleep quality. First, optimize your sleep environment. Your bedroom should be dark, really dark. Light suppresses melatonin, the hormone that regulates your sleep-wake cycle. Even small amounts of light can disrupt sleep architecture. Reducing deep sleep and REM sleep. Use blackout curtains. Cover any LED lights and avoid screens for at least an hour before bed. Temperature matters too. Your body temperature naturally drops during sleep, and a cool room facilitates this process. Most people sleep best in rooms between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. It might feel cold initially, but you'll sleep more deeply. That people are terrible at judging their own sleep deprivation. You adapt to impaired performance, mistake it for normal, and don't realize how much better you could be functioning. But duration alone isn't enough. Consistency matters enormously. Your brain's consolidation processes are tied to your circadian rhythm. If you go to bed at 11 p.m. every night, your brain learns to initiate consolidation processes at predictable times. But if your sleep schedule is erratic, going to bed at 10 p.m. one night, 1 a.m. the next, 9 p.m. the following night, your brain never knows when to start consolidation. It's constantly playing catch up, never able to establish efficient patterns. Try to maintain a consistent sleep schedule, going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every day, even on weekends. This isn't about being rigid. Occasional variation is fine, but wild swings in your sleep schedule disrupt your brain's learning processes. Now let's talk about sleep quality. Getting 8 hours in bed doesn't help if you're awake for 2 of those hours, or if your sleep is constantly disrupted. Here's how to improve sleep quality. First, optimize your sleep environment. Your bedroom should be dark, really dark. Light suppresses melatonin, the hormone that regulates your sleep-wake cycle. Even small amounts of light can disrupt sleep architecture. Reducing deep sleep and REM sleep. Use blackout curtains. Cover any LED lights and avoid screens for at least an hour before bed. temperature matters too. Your body temperature naturally drops during sleep, and a cool room facilitates this process. Most people sleep best in rooms between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. It might feel cold initially, but you'll sleep more deeply. Noise is another factor. Constant noise is disruptive, but so is intermittent noise. If you live in a noisy environment, consider using white noise to mask disruptive sounds. White noise can actually enhance sleep quality by providing consistent acoustic input that your brain can filter out. Now, what about what you do before bed? This is where you can really leverage your understanding of sleep learning. Remember that study where researchers cued specific memories during sleep by playing associated sounds? You can use a similar principle, minus the complicated technology. Before bed, review the most important material you learned that day. Not a comprehensive study session, just a brief review. This primes your brain to prioritize this information during consolidation. You're essentially telling your brain, "Hey, this is important. Study this tonight." This review should be targeted and focused. If you learned 20 different things today, pick the 3 or 4 most important items and review them for a few minutes before bed. This focused attention signals to your brain which memories to prioritize during replay. And here's a fascinating tip. If you're working on a difficult problem or creative project, spend a few minutes thinking about it before bed, not in a stressful, ruminating way, but in a curious, open-ended way. Frame the problem in your mind. Think about what a solution might look like, and then let it go as you fall asleep. Your sleeping brain will continue working on it. You might wake up with insights you didn't have before. This is exactly how many famous discoveries happened. The problem was top of mind before sleep, and the solution emerged during or after sleep. Strategic napping. The power of sleep in small doses. You don't have to wait until nighttime to harness sleep's learning benefits. Strategic napping can provide powerful learning boosts if done correctly. Let's talk about the science of naps. A short nap of 10 to 20 minutes, sometimes called a power nap, can restore alertness and improve mood and performance. These naps typically keep you in stage 1 and light stage 2 sleep. They won't provide the deep consolidation benefits of longer sleep, but they're excellent for clearing out sleep pressure, that groggy feeling that accumulates during prolonged wakefulness, and restoring your ability to encode new information. Think of a power nap as hitting the refresh button on your brain. It clears out the buildup of adenosine, the chemical that makes you feel sleepy, and resets your attention and working memory systems. But for actual learning consolidation, you need longer naps that include deeper sleep stages. A 60 to 90-minute nap can include both deep sleep and REM sleep, providing many of the same consolidation benefits as nighttime sleep. This is long enough for your brain to cycle through all the sleep stages and begin consolidating information you learned earlier. Studies have shown that a 90-minute afternoon nap can improve learning performance as much as a full night of sleep for some types of tasks, particularly motor skills and perceptual learning. However, and this is crucial, long naps can interfere with nighttime sleep if taken too late in the day. Generally, if you're going to take a long nap, do it in the early afternoon, no later than 3 p.m. for most people. This gives enough time for sleep pressure to rebuild before your regular bedtime. There's also an interesting middle ground, the 30 to 45-minute nap. This is long enough to get some deep sleep and its consolidation benefits, but not so long that you enter a full sleep cycle. The downside is that you might wake up feeling groggy, a phenomenon called sleep inertia. This grogginess usually passes within 15 to 30 minutes. Now, here's a strategic way to use naps for learning. If you're learning something new, particularly a motor skill or perceptual task, practice it. Then take a nap shortly afterward. Studies show that napping soon after learning enhances consolidation. The memories are fresh, still actively represented in your hippocampus, and sleep can immediately begin transferring them to longer-term storage. This is why athletes often nap after training sessions. They're not just resting their bodies. They're consolidating the motor patterns and skills they just practiced. There's even evidence that what you do immediately before a nap can influence what gets consolidated during the nap, similar to pre-bedtime review. If you review important information, practice a skill, or think about a problem just before napping, your brain is more likely to prioritize that content during the nap. The role of sleep in different types of learning. Not all learning benefits equally from sleep. Understanding which types of learning are most sleep-dependent can help you strategically leverage sleep for maximum benefit. Let's break this down by learning category. Motor skills and procedures. These are among the most sleep-dependent forms of learning. Whether you're learning to play an instrument, perform a sport technique, type, write, or any other physical skill, sleep consolidation is crucial. Studies consistently show that motor skill performance improves after sleep without any additional practice. This improvement is specific to the exact skill practiced. It doesn't transfer to similar but different skills, and it correlates with specific sleep stages, particularly stage 2, sleep and REM sleep. If you're learning a motor skill, practice is essential, but so is sleep. Plan your practice sessions to allow for adequate sleep afterward. Don't cram physical practice. Space it out with sleep in between. Declarative memories, facts and events. Declarative memories. Things like vocabulary, historical facts, mathematical formulas, and episodic memories of events also benefit significantly from sleep, but through different mechanisms than motor skills. These memories are particularly dependent on deep sleep and its associated memory replay and hippocampal cortical transfer. The sleep spindles during stage 2 sleep also play a crucial role. If you're learning factual information, review it before bed. Get good sleep, and you'll remember it better. But also remember that understanding is enhanced during sleep, not just rote memory. Your brain reorganizes and integrates factual information, making it more meaningful and accessible. Emotional learning. Sleep plays a unique role in emotional learning and regulation. REM sleep in particular is involved in processing emotional experiences, helping to integrate emotional memories while reducing their emotional intensity. This is why emotionally charged events often seem less overwhelming after a good night's sleep. Your brain has processed the emotional content, extracted the important information, and reduced the emotional reactivity. This has important implications. If you experience something emotionally difficult, Sleep can help you process it. But be aware that if you immediately go to sleep after a traumatic experience, that traumatic memory might get consolidated in its raw emotional form. Sometimes it's beneficial to have some waking time to process an experience before sleeping. Creative insights and problem-solving, these cognitive abilities are particularly enhanced by REM sleep, with its unique pattern of brain connectivity and reduced prefrontal control. If you're working on a problem that requires insight, creativity, or seeing connections between distant concepts, sleep is your friend. Work on the problem, sleep on it, and give your brain time to explore unconventional solution spaces. But here's an interesting nuance. Sleep helps most with problems that you've already spent time thinking about. Sleep isn't going to solve a problem you know nothing about. You need to load your brain with the relevant information. Think about the problem, and then let sleep do its creative work. Skill transfer and generalization. Here's something really interesting that recent research has uncovered. Sleep doesn't just help you remember what you learned. It helps you transfer that learning to new situations. In one study, participants learned to solve math problems using a specific procedure. After sleeping, they weren't just better at solving the same problems. They were better at recognizing when the same procedure could be used in different contexts. Sleep had enhanced their ability to generalize their learning. This suggests that sleep isn't just consolidating specific memories. It's extracting underlying principles and patterns that can be applied broadly. This is incredibly valuable for real-world learning, where you rarely encounter exactly the same situation twice. Common sleep mistakes that sabotage learning. Now let's talk about the mistakes people commonly make that undermine their brain's ability to study during sleep. If you're making these errors, fixing them could dramatically improve your learning. Mistake by Wen Zhang: sacrificing sleep for study time. This is the big one. When students constantly trade sleep for more study time, believing they're making a smart trade-off. They're not. The research is absolutely clear. Beyond a certain point, additional study time without sleep provides diminishing returns and eventually negative returns. You're better off studying for 6 hours and sleeping for 8 than studying for 10 hours and sleeping for 4. Why? Because learning isn't just about encoding information. It's about consolidating it, organizing it, integrating it. Without sleep, the studying you do is like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You can keep pouring, but you're not actually filling the bucket. If you find yourself constantly choosing between study time and sleep, restructure your schedule. Find ways to study more efficiently during the time you have. Eliminate distractions. Use active learning techniques and protect your sleep time as sacred. Mistake bait 2-way. Irregular sleep schedules. Your brain thrives on consistency. When you go to bed at different times every night, your circadian rhythm never stabilizes and your sleep architecture becomes less efficient. Students often follow one schedule during the week and a completely different schedule on weekends, creating social jet lag. This disrupts learning consolidation and leaves you feeling perpetually tired. Try to keep your sleep schedule within a 1-hour window, even on weekends. If you're a night owl forced into an early schedule during the week, don't try to completely flip your schedule on weekends. Make adjustments, but keep them moderate. Mistake 5-3: alcohol before bed. Many people use alcohol to help them fall asleep. While alcohol can make you drowsy, it severely disrupts sleep architecture. Alcohol suppresses REM sleep, particularly in the first half of the night. Remember, REM sleep is crucial for creative problem solving and emotional processing and integrating new learning. By suppressing REM sleep, alcohol is directly sabotaging your brain's ability to consolidate learning. Alcohol also fragments sleep, causing brief awakenings throughout the night that you might not remember. Even if you sleep for 8 hours, the quality is poor. If you drink, do so earlier in the evening and stop at least 3 hours before bed to give your body time to metabolize the alcohol before sleep. Mistake wide 4A: intense exercise. Right before bed exercise is fantastic for sleep, but timing matters. Intense exercise raises your core body temperature, increases adrenaline, and activates your sympathetic nervous system, all of which can interfere with sleep onset. Try to finish intense workouts at least 3 hours before bed. Light exercise, like gentle stretching or yoga, is fine close to bedtime and might even help you relax. Mistake 5I: using sleep medication regularly. Many sleep medications, both prescription and over-the-counter, alter sleep architecture. They might help you fall asleep, but they often reduce deep sleep or REM sleep, compromising learning consolidation. If you have chronic sleep problems, work with a healthcare provider on long-term solutions rather than relying on medication. Often, Improving sleep hygiene and addressing underlying issues is more effective than medication. Mistake White 6. Studying difficult material right before bed. Remember how we talked about reviewing important material before bed to prime consolidation? That's different from trying to learn brand new difficult material right before sleep. If you're stressed, confused, and frustrated while trying to learn something right before bed, you're elevating cortisol and creating a state of arousal that will interfere with sleep. Your brain needs to wind down before sleep, not ramp up. Save challenging new learning for earlier in the day. Before bed, do light review of material you've already learned. Prime your brain with the problems you want it to work on, but don't engage in high-intensity cognitive effort. Sleep and different learning goals. Let's talk about how to tailor your sleep strategy to specific learning goals. Different situations call for different approaches. Preparing for an exam. If you have an important exam coming up, here's your sleep strategy. In the weeks leading up to the exam, prioritize consistent sleep. Don't sacrifice sleep to study more. Remember, learning happens during sleep, not just during study. Space your studying across multiple days with sleep in between each study session. This spacing effect combined with sleep consolidation will make your learning more durable. The night before the exam, definitely sleep. Don't pull an all-nighter. Even if you haven't studied as much as you wanted, you'll perform better on the exam if you sleep than if you cram. Do a final review session earlier in the evening or then have a wind down period before bed. Go to sleep at your regular time. Don't try to go to bed extra early out of anxiety. This often backfires. During sleep, your brain will consolidate what you reviewed, organize your knowledge, and prepare you for retrieval. You'll wake up with better access to what you've learned. Learning a new language learning involves multiple types of memory: vocabulary, declarative memory, grammar patterns, procedural memory, and pronunciation, motor skill. All of these benefit from sleep, but in different ways. For vocabulary, review new words before bed. Studies show that vocabulary learned before sleep is remembered better than vocabulary learned at other times of day. For grammar and patterns, Space your practice across days with sleep in between. Your brain needs time to extract the underlying rules and patterns, and sleep facilitates this extraction. For pronunciation, practice speaking, then sleep. Your brain will consolidate the motor patterns involved in producing sounds. Also, consider using multiple sleep cycles. Don't try to learn too much at once. Learn a moderate amount. Sleep, learn more, sleep again. This spaced approach with intervening sleep is far more effective than intensive immersion. Music is heavily motor, skill dependent, and motor skills are highly sleep dependent. Here's the optimal strategy. Practice in focused sessions, aiming for accuracy rather than exhaustion. When you notice your performance deteriorating, stop. More practice at that point often reinforces errors. Get sleep soon after practice if possible. A nap or nighttime sleep will consolidate what you just practiced. Practice the same material again the next day. You'll often find that the piece you struggled with yesterday is suddenly easier. This is offline learning in action. Don't cram musical practice into long marathons. Shorter daily practice sessions with sleep in between are far more effective than occasional long sessions. Athletic training athletes are increasingly recognizing sleep as a training tool, not just recovery time. For skill development, the same principles apply as music. Practice technique, sleep, and you'll improve. Many elite athletes strategically nap after training sessions to enhance consolidation. For strength and conditioning, sleep is crucial for physical recovery. But it's also important for consolidating motor patterns. You're not just building muscle. You're building movement efficiency, and that requires sleep. Some athletes even use visualization before sleep. They mentally rehearse their sport, and there's evidence that this mental practice combined with sleep can enhance performance. Creative projects. If you're working on something creative, writing art, design, problem solving, leverage REM sleep's creative power. Work on your project during the day. Think about problems you're trying to solve. Then, before bed, spend a few minutes reviewing what you're working on. Don't force solutions. Just prime your brain with the questions and challenges. Let your sleeping brain explore. Often, you'll wake up with new ideas. fresh perspectives, or solutions that eluded you during conscious work. Keep a notebook by your bed. Sometimes insights occur during brief awakenings or immediately upon waking, and they're easily forgotten if not recorded immediately. The science of sleep and aging. Maintaining learning throughout life. As we age, our sleep changes. Understanding these changes and adapting to them is crucial for maintaining learning ability throughout life. Fourth, exercise becomes increasingly important. Regular physical activity, particularly aerobic exercise, has been shown to improve sleep quality in older adults and even partially restore some deep sleep. Fifth, cognitive engagement helps. Older adults who remain cognitively active, learning new skills, engaging with novel experiences, tend to maintain better sleep quality. There's a bidirectional relationship. Good sleep supports learning, and active learning supports good sleep. The key message is this: age-related changes in sleep are real, but they're not insurmountable. With attention to sleep optimization, older adults can continue learning effectively throughout life. The future. Emerging technologies and techniques. Before we wrap up, let's talk about some exciting developments in sleep learning technology. These aren't yet mainstream, but they offer glimpses into how we might enhance sleep learning in the future. Targeted memory reactivation. Here's what happens to sleep as we get older. Deep sleep declines significantly, By age 60, most people get much less deep sleep than they did in their 20s and 30s. This matters because deep sleep is crucial for memory consolidation, particularly for declarative memories. REM sleep also decreases somewhat, though not as dramatically as deep sleep. This can affect creative problem solving and emotional processing. Sleep becomes more fragmented. Older adults wake up more frequently during the night, often without remembering these awakenings. This fragmentation reduces sleep quality and can interfere with consolidation processes. But here's the important message. These changes don't mean older adults can't learn effectively. They just need to be more strategic. First, older adults may benefit from longer total sleep time to compensate for reduced sleep quality. If you're getting 7 hours now, try aiming for 8. Second, napping becomes more important. Strategic naps can provide additional consolidation opportunities, particularly for motor skills and perceptual learning. A midday nap can boost learning performance significantly. Third, maintaining good sleep hygiene becomes even more crucial. Small factors that younger people might tolerate, like a warm room, some light, or irregular schedules, have bigger impacts on older adults. Remember that study where researchers played sounds during sleep to cue specific memories. This technique, called targeted memory reactivation, is being refined and expanded. Researchers are developing systems that can detect specific sleep stages and deliver cues at optimal times. Imagine wearing a headband that monitors your brain waves, detects when you enter deep sleep, and then plays subtle audio cues associated with material you want to learn. Early studies are promising. People using these systems show enhanced memory consolidation, particularly when the cues are delivered during optimal sleep stages. This technology might eventually be available for personal use, allowing you to boost learning of specific material while you sleep. Sleep stage extension. Some researchers are exploring ways to extend beneficial sleep stages, using techniques like acoustic stimulation and gentle sounds played at specific frequencies. They can sometimes enhance deep sleep or extend REM periods. If these techniques prove safe and effective, they could be used to enhance learning, particularly in populations with naturally reduced deep sleep or REM sleep. Learning during sleep.